Welcome back. In this video, we're going to add the feature so that we can basically click on a given item or a given wish and then go to the edit screen, which will then load the right item from the database, and then we can edit that item whenever we make a change. So therefore, I am inside of the home view, and the home view, once we click on a item, so on a wish item here, we need to make sure that that wish item is aware of which ID it's supposed to go to. So which ID the wish item should load. And I'm gonna set the ID to be wish.id because this wish contains the ID that we're looking at or for. And then I'm going to use the nav controller to navigate to that particular item. So here, this navigate will require our screen dot, and it should navigate to the add screen and to its root. And here I'm saying that I would like to pass the ID as well. So we can do that by using this approach here, where we're basically saying, okay, I want to pass this ID to the screen, to this add screen root. Okay, now that is how we are adding it. But how do we retrieve it? Well, we saw how to retrieve it earlier on, but there are multiple ways to do that. And the one that we're going to look at here is a little different because it's a little more complicated, or we are going to enable us to make it more complicated. So basically we have this add screen, right? And currently by default, it just uses the ID of 0. So whenever we click on the add screen, we're just creating a new entry. Well, always going to the new entry field, never actually loading the item at the detailed screen. That's what we want to achieve, right? Here on this screen, we want to actually load the data and then allow us to update the wish once we click on add wish, so to speak. Now, going back to the navigation, how do we read the ID of our add screen root? Well, we can add that here directly, where we say we also take the ID into consideration, and so inside of this composable, and then we can read the arguments. So that will actually be here, comma, arguments, and now this arguments is going to be a list of nav arguments. So there's this thing called nav argument, which in my case is the ID. And then I can say what the nav argument builder should do. So here I'm saying, okay, the type should be nav type dot long type. So the information that I'm passing over is of type long. Then the default value is going to be 0 as a long, and it should not be nullable. So nullable is going to be set to false. Now this is these are the arguments that we can pass now. We can pass a list of IDs, but in our case, it's just going to be an individual ID that we're passing. So now we get this additional information that we can load. We can now load the ID. We can check if entry, which is this navback stack entry, right? So we're getting that entry, and now we're checking the entry for arguments. And here arguments, and we're checking if they're not null. So if they're not null, then we're gonna say, and this should be in a separate line, if they're not null, we will say entry.arguments. We're going to unpack them. We're gonna get the long value of ID from them. We already said that it cannot be nullable, however, it would expect that. So get long, you see, without the exclamation marks, without us unpacking this nullable, we would get an error directly in the compiler. So here we need to define what should happen in both cases. So if our entry arguments are not null, then take those entry arguments and get the long at the ID or at the key of ID. So here we're saying we are creating nav arguments with the name of ID, where we are saying it's of type long. So basically here we are saying you can pass arguments to my root, to my composable when creating it. And here at this point, we are unpacking it. So getting the arguments, and we're looking for a particular argument with the name of ID. And if we have that, then we're going to take it. If we don't have that, then we're going to set the ID to null, to 0L. Okay. Now this added detail view should now read the ID as this ID instead of always being 0L. So it's going to be 0L if we click on the add button. If we don't click on the add button, but we click on the edit button, then it will get an ID from the entry. So basically saying the item that we want to edit, and we just have taken care of that. For example, in this home view, we said here, I'm going to add the ID whenever I navigate to a particular wish item on that list. Now I need to go over to the home view, and here I need to make sure where I navigate to the add screen that my root isn't empty. So basically here I need to make sure that I add an ID as well, otherwise our application will crash. So what I'm going to say here is plus and then 0L after the slash. Okay, so this will now send us over to the add screen without crashing. Let's actually test that and see if our app will crash or not. So we don't have any entries anymore because I deleted all of them while testing. So here we're adding an item. Let's call this 1 and 1, add wish. So we have this item here. Now let's click on this wish, and you see it loads the wish for us. So that's because whenever we go on the screen, let's actually add another entry just to see if this is actually the case. So this one will be 1 2 1 2, add wish, then 1 3 1 1 2 3 1 2 3. So now let's go over to this one, and you see it actually didn't load the 1. So it looked like it, and I was tricked for a moment as well, but it actually isn't loading. It's just maintaining the old state. So now we actually need to take care of loading the data from there. And that will be inside of the add edit detail screen. Here at edit detail view, we actually need to load the data that we were sent. So basically the wish that was sent, well, that has the ID of where we clicked on. And where would that be? Well, if we go up here, we have our if 0 string. So we had, after we created the scaffold state up here, we need to check if the ID that we get from here at the top, if that ID is not equal 0L, then we want to load the wish. So we're going to create a wish object here, which we get from the view model. So view model dot get wish by ID with the ID, and then we collect that as a state where we say initial wish. Well, the initial state that we want to use is going to be wish with an ID of 0L, right? The title of nothing and the description of nothing. So that's going to be the default wish. And we now, however, get the wish by its ID, which will give us the proper wish, which contains all of the additional details. And now we can use that to update the view model state. So wish title state here with our wish dot value dot title. And the same goes for view model dot wish description state, which will be wish dot value dot description. And now what should happen if we get 0? Well, then the view model state should just be an empty string or title state. And the same goes for the description as well. So basically that means we got there through creating a new entry, and otherwise we got there through an entry that already existed. And now if we run our application again, we will see that we actually get the view model to work and do its magic. So we click on any of the given items and you see it's loading the title and description. So here 1, 2, 3, you see title 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, 3. So now we just need to add the update feature. So we need to update our wish, and that's what we're going to do in the next video.